Welcome back. Now this is a surprise. After 13 weeks we've been following a formula. This week we're actually departing from the formula. And Tanya is helping us with our reverse interview. I'll introduce Tanya in a minute. But we're saving the last session to have a greater look at what is wealth. We've already learnt that, no big surprise, Fred is the better off. But what I want to do is I want to spend a little bit of time to develop a good definition of wealth that we can develop from that experience. So that's why I'm sorry we're doing things a little bit out of order, a little bit differently this week, but hey, it's the 13th episode and we can do whatever we like. So, Tanya, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're going to help us clarify or tease out some issues in relation to estate planning.
Sure.
The bit you saw on estate planning, were there any questions that flowed out of that for you?
There was. I was a little bit confused between what an enduring and a guardian power of attorney is.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so it is a little confusing because there's an enduring and a general power. Okay, so a general power is used when you want somebody to act for you, typically when you're overseas or something like that.
Okay.
But it's only usable whilst the person who grants the power of attorney has legal capacity.
Okay.
Now what that really means is if they lose legal capacity because they are gaga or they're in a coma, then your power to act on their behalf is not legal.
Sure.
Okay, so a general power is a cool thing to do if you're bought a house and you're overseas and you want somebody to settle it for you.
Okay.
And of course this is no good if you're going into old age, and it's quite likely you might end up being gaga.
Sure.
So if somebody granted a general power and then lost mental capacity themselves, on Alzheimer's or something, the person who had that power couldn't act on their behalf.
Sure.
Which is why they have an enduring power. And that's what that does. It means that if you've been granted an enduring power, the person can act irrespective of the mental capacity of the person who granted the power.
Clear.
Okay. Which means that before you go gaga, give someone an enduring power of attorney.
Correct. Thank you. So can you explain the difference to me between the medical and the guardianship powers?
Okay, that's often confusing and it's different in different states. But here, a medical power of attorney grants the appointee the ability to order medical treatment.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't want him to have that drug, I do want him to have that drug, that type of stuff.
So they're press the button type of people.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas a guardianship power, if you like, gives you power to make decisions over the body. So
Okay.
what sort of homes they can go in, what sort of treatments they can receive in homes. They generally go together. They seem to do pretty much the same thing.
Sure.
So if you're in a state where two are, but they're both needed, get them both. If you're in a state where only one is needed, you only need one.
And you would appoint the same person?
Often you can. Often you can. A guardianship powers actually have to be accepted.
Okay.
Okay, so I can grant a power of attorney,
Mm-hmm.
and I can grant a medical power of attorney to somebody.
Yes.
But to grant a guardianship power, I believe they have to sign for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. So it's the cyber world. What
Yeah.
happens to my Facebook account when I'm not here? It's all important.
It's a very good question, actually. We've dealt through these sessions on concrete stuff, paper.
Yes. Yeah.
But we've all heard of Facebook accounts that are still going when somebody's been deceased.
Yep.
They can actually cause stress to relatives as well.
Yes.
People can question whether a Facebook identity should still be an identity if they've deceased. So it can bring a lot of stress and concern across a lot of things. And of course, it's not just Facebook. There's eBay and there's Google accounts.
My LinkedIn account.
LinkedIn accounts. So really you've got so many identities across the world. So how do you deal with them? It is a good question. The best way to do it, in my view, is to have all the passwords in one place.
Sure.
So there are some software programs you can have to achieve that.
Okay.
One of them I think is KeySafe, but there are a lot of them around.
Okay.
And the idea is that you put all your passwords in one place, you have one master password which you put in your will maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But quite apart from that, I often forget passwords and I go to my KeySafe and say, God, I'm pleased I've got this.
Sure. Yep.
Because the account would be lost, well not lost to me, but difficult to access again.
Yep.
So the idea then is that should somebody decease and they have this type of approach, all their passwords in one place with a master password, the person who is handling the estate can access all the sites as the deceased.
Okay.
Right? Without that ability, you actually have to prove to Facebook and eBay and others that a death has occurred.
Oh.
That can be difficult. It can be
Distressing.
simply a statutory declaration, it can be a statutory declaration and a death certificate. It's incredibly messy and time consuming.
Okay.
Another thing that might be worthy of considering as well is if somebody is deceases, putting them on the no call register.
Oh, good
I've
idea.
had clients who have been quite distressed just reasonably soon after death, I think,
Sure.
when a canvasser has called up and wanted to speak to Fred.
Yeah.
And canvassers are paid to be persistent. And the persistence to speak to Fred when he's just deceased is really quite distressing. So again, that might be something you might like to put on early.
Great idea.
Good on you. Okay, so we're out of order. That's our reverse interview done in the second spot. When you come back after the break, we'll have a look at what is wealth. We know that Fred is wealthier than John. We'll see what we can learn from that. See you after the break.